Hi sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button, turn your notifications so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I am saying a very big shout out to every one of you for all the love and support you all give me here. I am truly grateful, and you are super sweet. So today you will be talking something very important. I actually did a video on this, something like this before, and if you can find it, or if you have not watched it, I probably might link it up so that if you haven't, you can also check it out. This lady has always been consistent with her saying how Black people helped them to fight, gain their freedom, their human rights and all that. But it looks like some Hispanics, it's not going well with them, because like this lady has really been emphasizing on Black people, like how great and how amazing they helped them. And this woman is always saying that she is not anti-Black, but man, she is so anti-Black that like she doesn't even need to like say it anymore. I mean, when she talks, you know how she is. And they always some like they always have clique, all these Hispanic people. When you say something that they think does not sit well with them, they start tagging one another to tell them that come over, someone is saying, like, it's giving credit to Black people and all that. And so somebody also called Hispanics out about how they always have this internalized racism about Black people. And I think there was a time San Francisco approved the reparations and all that, and it looks like it did not go well with a lot of Hispanics, and some of them were coming out to they were asking, why is it only Black people that is getting a reparation in San Francisco, when what is it got there? Also, Hispanics should also get their own reparations. And I mean, this is just like something I really do not understand. How Black people have really been consistent with screaming about their reparations and how they want their reparations, and like they have not been keeping quiet about it. But some certain people have really been quiet about it. But each time they see something happening for Black people, they want to jump on that and start making some bullshit comments and all that. I am rolling this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. Shut up, here we'll go.
I'm using this comment because I'm noticing a trend, not only in the way that people look who are leaving comments like this, but also to draw association to anti-Blackness, and how when I'm highlighting Black history, it triggers some of y'all in the Latino community. I know that her video was not in good faith. I know that there is a level of anti-Blackness to her videos because she felt triggered by what I said, because probably she or people like this commenter and others who comment like this feel triggered as well, because they probably are people who say things like this. And I want to start off by saying, I have never discredited the Chicano movement. I have never discredited the gasoline baths, the Placero program. I have never said that we shouldn't teach that. I have never said that people shouldn't make videos about it. I also never said that I disagree with that history. And I've also never said that we shouldn't give credit to the Latinos who also fought for Latino rights here in the US. But just because I said that we should give credit to Black Americans, all of a sudden she felt triggered and some of y'all felt triggered. Because I also didn't mention to give credit. According to her, I was flip-floppy about giving credit to both Latino and Black Americans when I clearly state that Latinos fought side by side. Isn't that also giving credit? But we want to be so focused on what we want to be focused on and miss the message of the video. And I know that her videos are rooted in anti-Blackness, despite the fact that there are historical facts in her video, but they're rooted in anti-Blackness because she's going off on tangents and ad hominems about things that I've never discussed in that said video. For example, in one of her videos, she talks about the term Latino and how it's part of indigenous erasure, which is something I already know. But let's be for real. Let's not act like there isn't a whole bunch of Latino people who identify like Latino and don't identify with being indigenous. And we're not being forced not to identify as indigenous. These people are actively choosing not to want to identify with being indigenous. There's a lot of Latino people who actively do not want to be associated with being indigenous. And those are the people I'm talking to. Also, she says that I'm not giving credit to Latino people when I actively mention that Latino people fought side by side with Black American people. But because I'm putting more emphasis on Black people, all of a sudden she's like triggered, or y'all are triggered. I would encourage y'all to think deeper as to why you felt triggered. And then she also says that why should we identify with Black American issues? Instead, we should support them. And this is where it gets like crazy, because she's using a play on words. She's trying to nitpick. This is what tells me that she's just being disingenuous and she's just being anti-Black. Because in order for you to support a group of people, you need to identify with their issues. So for example, the fact that the US trafficked South Americans for the Placero program should be enough for y'all to identify with Black American struggles, because that is trafficking. And just because they got paid a little change don't mean it wasn't human trafficking. How about the Mexican lynchings of 1840 and 1870? Mexican lynchings. Like, how can you not identify with Black American history and issues when we literally had similar histories here in the US? So how can't you identify? And for me, logically, if you can't identify with somebody's issues, how can you even begin to support them in their fight? And I don't know, in her video, she makes it seem like the Hart-Celler Act, which was fought during the Civil Rights, which I said in several videos already, help us immigrate here in masses. Something like that is attributed to the Civil Rights Movement. And in her video, she's making it seem like because of this act, human trafficking has gotten worse. As if, regardless if the act was passed or not, it wouldn't have still been bad. In order for the US government to pass something that is in our favor, they're always gonna have some stipulation. And putting a limit on Latino immigration to the US was the stipulation. Do you think that Black Americans wanted that? No, that was the government. And of course, there wasn't a limit prior to the law. Because why would the government want a limit when they're using us for cheap labor, i.e. human trafficking us? But the fact is the fact, and wherever you look, you can see that after the 1960s, because of this act, we were able to migrate here in mass droves. And if you look at the numbers, you cannot say that we had more Latin Americans here in the US before the 1960s than we did after the 1960s. There's no data to show that. And that was the whole point of the video. And she takes my video and makes 2 videos going off on all the tangents that I just mentioned, because she was triggered by the credit that I want to give towards Black Americans. If you want to align yourself with that, be my guest. But I have never sat here and denied any historical facts when it comes to Latino history. And just because I didn't mention them in my video doesn't mean that I deny them. Her video was not in good faith. I know that there is a level of anti-Blackness.
It's funny how when we correct certain people, it all of a sudden becomes anti-Black. Correction does not equal anti-Blackness. And in this video, you conflated 2 whole videos. The first video that I made in response to your first video, and then the second response video I made to your other response video. Your first video was a red herring argument, meaning you presented misleading information to form a narrative of Latinos owing Black Americans over the Hart-Celler Act, which really didn't benefit people from Latin American countries, which I explained to you. twice. And then you backpedaled because you said it allowed for more immigration when I stated and showed you and proved you that it actually put a cap on immigration from Latin American countries. You still continue to miss historical context as to why immigration rose during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which had to do with the destabilization of certain Latin American countries, hence using the refugee clause in the Hart-Zeller Act. And yes, even though you mentioned brown and black work together, you still said we owed African Americans. So let me make this very clear. Nobody owes anybody anything. Because if you expect to be owed for doing the right thing, then you did it for the wrong reasons to begin with. And you being an Afro-Latina, don't get to go and tell the rest of the people from the Latin American diaspora that they owe anybody. Secondly, no, I cannot identify with black experiences or black issues because I'm not black. I can empathize. I can understand. I can support. But I will never be in the shoes of a black person to understand that experience or those issues. And vice versa. And a prime example of this would be, since you want to keep saying, we all know that brown Latinos don't claim their indigenous identity. Well, there's a whole lot of trauma associated with that. While some are self-hating bigots themselves, a lot of them just don't know or are ashamed to say so because they have been told that they can't. An experience you wouldn't understand because you are not us. So I suggest in the future you speak for yourself and not the entire Latin American diaspora, because we all have very different experiences and issues, and we all come from many different ethnic backgrounds, which is why the term Latino in itself is problematic, and why many of us quote-unquote brown Latinos don't identify with that term, and why so many of us identify with our ethnicities and are starting to reclaim our indigenous identities. With that, have a day.
So San Francisco has recently taken up a black reparations proposal, including a $5 million per person deal. And holy shit, are the racists losing their minds. But it's not just white folks, it's all the people of color who have internalized racism. You guys really show your fucking colors when it comes to inequality, when it comes to black people. These comments were like, well, where's Puerto Rico's money? What about the indigenous folks who've never gotten their reparations or their land back? Let me explain something to every single one of you. You must not understand what it's like to be a fucking slave. You must have fallen asleep during that history class. Maybe you haven't had the opportunity to visit any lynching museums. Getting behind the idea that a group of people deserve to get what's coming to them after 500 fucking years of being impoverished, enslaved, and systematically brutalized is beyond fucking me. It's gross. If Germany can give reparations to the Jews and apologize nationally to them, what the fuck are we waiting for? I pray they get every penny that they deserve. And when the day comes that your people deserve something, I hope everybody gives you enough shit the way you've given everybody else. It's all the people of color who have internalized racism. You guys really show your fucking colors when it comes to inequality, when it comes to black people. These comments were like, well, where's Puerto Rico's money? What about the indigenous folks who've never gotten their reparations or their land?
I really dislike it when words like racism, internalized racism, anti-blackness, anti-indigenous, and even anti-Latino is used improperly. It is not internalized racism to literally ask the question, what about us? Because it is a valid question. Just as it would be valid if other marginalized groups got reparations before black people. It would be a very valid question for black people to ask that same question.
You must not understand what it's like to be a fucking slave. You must have fallen asleep during that history class. Maybe you haven't had the opportunity to visit any lynching museums. Getting behind the idea that a group of people deserve to get what's coming to them after 500 fucking years of being impoverished, enslaved, and systematically brutalized is beyond fucking me. It's gross.
What I find gross is the oppression Olympics that you are weaponizing and dismissing the history, the brutalization, and the terrorism and pain of every other marginalized group of people. Now, I won't say that you fell asleep in history class because indigenous history was never really taught in the first place. I'll refer you back to my content so you can get educated on it. But in the meantime, playing the Oppression Olympics is a tool of white supremacy, and you played right into the hands of it. And it caused further division in all the videos I've seen stitched of you, and in all the comment sections on all of these videos, because the anti-Blackness, anti-Indigenous, and anti-Latino rhetoric came out in full force, and the Oppression Olympics came out in full force. And instead of being united, we played into the white supremacy card of divide and conquer, fighting each other, pushing our pain and hate onto one another, instead of the real enemy at hand. Now, my personal views on reparations are this. 1, if we were to get reparations, it should all be given at the same time to every marginalized group of people. Therefore, it doesn't show that one group is more oppressed than the other, because we all are dealing with the same oppression under the same thumb of white supremacy. However, reparations does no one good if we are still living under the system of white supremacy. The system that controls our education system, our financial system, our agricultural system, our government, and above all, capitalism. But everybody says, well, it helps us get generational wealth. But generational wealth is capitalism. That's how capitalism continues to work. See, no amount of money or land given to oppressed people will ever matter, because it will just end up right back into the hands of the very people who oppress us. True reparations is dismantling white supremacy and the system that upholds it. What good is money if it ends up right back into their hands through the many laws and loopholes that they make for them to take it from you? While some people may succeed, they won't allow everybody to succeed. What good is land if you do not know how to cultivate it or protect it? And when it can be taken right back by the government whenever they see fit. See, white supremacy is about keeping us colonized and keeping us in these colonized mindsets, which is why so many of us advocate for decolonization of your mind, removing the shackles from the psychological hold that white supremacy has on all of us, healing the generational trauma that white supremacy has placed on every single one of us, generation through generation. Reparations, money, land doesn't fix that if you're still living in that colonized mindset and are comfortable in living under the thumb of white supremacy.
So this is all I got from this video. And first of all, this lady really needs to do a lot of this deconstruction. And she started by saying, okay, like, first of all, she said she's not anti-black. Like, each time people tries to educate other people, like, you know, about some certain things, that it looks like they are anti-black, that she is not anti-black. But like, you all can see all the videos and how she all started all of them. Okay, now let's actually, the first girl that spoke, I think you all saw the video that I made about her and this particular lady, I think last week or this week, you know, where the woman, the lady was actually giving credit to Black African Americans, Black people, for fighting for them, for being one of the reasons why they got their human rights, and one of the reasons why they, like, you know, got so many rights. As it stands, it was because Black Americans fought hand in hand with them. That was how they got everything. And she was telling them to always give credit to whom credit is due, because Black Americans, like African Americans, deserves all that credit, right? And this lady actually went out to, like, you know, tell her that they also fought. Why not also acknowledge? Because, like, you know, acknowledge that, yeah, this is what happened. And also, even the lady also said that they fought hand in hand, but Black people were all out for it and all that, right? Okay, now then when we got to where this man was talking about reparations, how like a lot of them are okay, when San Francisco said that they were gonna pay reparations to Black people for all the things they have caused them and the things like, you know, and all that, she all jumped all out. And then you can also see that anti-Blackness in her showing. They have also not been screaming about this reparations. Black people have really been consistent with this reparation, like screaming they want their reparations and all that. I understand that a lot of people always ask questions. I know that when some of you get this money, they want to spend it back in that same system and or that uphold that has refused to dismantle excuse me, dismantle this systemic racism and all that. I am sure that most people do not even want to stay back in America to spend that money. Some really want to relocate. Some just want to find their square root and, like, you know, start all afresh and all that. So do not think everybody wants to stay back and want to spend the money same place. And at the same time, you do not even have any right to tell people how to spend their money. I mean, nobody got that right to tell you this is how you're supposed to spend the money. You're supposed to spend it here and all that. Give them the money. Let them do whatever they want to do with it. So that is it. So all this back and forth she has been going, instead of her admitting, like, it's really glaring. She does not even need to admit it because she already admitted it from her talks and all that she's so anti-Black. And I see a lot of her videos, like, where people try to give credit to Black people. She always come in to say, yo, it was not exactly like this. It was like that. And then each time people, you know, people in their community, because this particular lady is also Latino, but they actually don't see her as one, or I mean, they see her like she is somewhere else, because, like, I think is you know, when you are not brown like them, you are not even supposed to be part of them. If you are, like, you know, she looks really Black, you know, because she is, and then she is not even hiding it. She says that she is. But then when they look at her, they are like, you are not part of us. I mean, you can just imagine that anti-Blackness is just like all over them. I think this is where I'm just going to draw the curtain. If you have something you want to say about this particular topic, why not? I will be reading all your comments, and I'm saying thank you all so much for all the love and support. You all are super sweet. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.